Hello, welcome back. In the previous video, we had looked at this paper and we had seen how it's an interesting paper in terms of helping us understand the problems that exist within pharmacovigilance, public health, and e-pharmacies in general. So just to go straight ahead into Table 2, Table 2 provided us with some of the compliance areas to best practices that these e-pharmacies should follow. And one interesting bit is that they need to provide information about the drug's use, side effects, drug interactions, and so on. So this side effects bit is very important because it's what people in pharmacovigilance use to sort of do this kind of surveillance bit on side effects that exist out there. So what I'm trying to say is that whenever a patient interacts with drugs and they get some certain reaction, they need to report that. So some of these reactions might be within the drug profile, others might not be there. So by reporting them, it helps the PV guys have that broad sense of surveillance happening. Okay, so understanding side effects reviews is a good place to start when you're thinking about problems that exist within this space, and if you want to come up with solutions. So you can imagine that you have a list of side effect reviews by the patients, and you're trying to see which side effects reviews indicated severe side effects or mild, depending on what drug the patient was given. All right. So we will use that school of thought to come up with a project around data science or even AI and see how to work that out. So the important thing here is that we are trying to formulate a problem from a real life problem and translate it into a project that we can do. So we'll just go to the next tab. So here we have drugs.com, where it's a popular site that provides information about drugs. So here our interest is on drug side effects. And as I had mentioned earlier on, the side effects can occur either as an intended therapeutic effect of a drug or medication, or sometimes as an undesirable secondary effect. Okay, so side effects may occur when starting or stopping or changing the dose of medication. In some cases, side effects may affect adherence to prescribed treatment. So normally healthcare providers may adjust therapy or recommend alternatives based on the severity and clinical significance of reported effects. So this is what we want to map out, this severity bit. And then I think some other time you can look at the clinical significance. Actually, this is a good project that we can look into. But in this particular case, I want us to look at severity. So you can imagine that if patients who access an e-pharmacy post reviews about that drug they've interacted with, how many of these reviews are able to tell you more information about severity of this drug? So that's what we will be focused on. So we will do this in a sense of we will approach this from a beginner perspective and help build intuition on how to get data around this, how to load this data in a Python environment, and then in subsequent videos, look how to build a model that addresses this problem. So over here, next, we have a UCI Machine Learning Repository. So this repo provides data that we can use to do some machine learning workflows. And there are very many datasets. So I will just leave the link down in the description. Please check out this repository. It's a good source to help you get datasets to work up your machine learning practice and AI. So for example, you can see we have heart disease datasets. We have breast cancer diagnostic datasets. So a lot is happening here. So what we are interested in, we're interested with data on drug reviews. So that's what we want to look into. So we want to see, given a list of drug reviews, can we able to rate or build a model that predicts severity? So we will use this within the pharmacovigilance environment to help us address some of the issues that might arise when patients report their drug interaction or side effects on these platforms. Okay, so here, just a brief overview on the dataset is that the dataset provides patient reviews on specific drugs along with related conditions. Reviews and ratings are grouped into reports on the three aspects: benefits, side effects, and overall comment. So our focus is on this. So over here, it gives more details about the data. There are 443 instances, that means rows in essence, and 8 features. So some of the things that we can do with this dataset, we can do classification, regression, and clustering. And as you see, it's within the health and medicine space. So it means it's a good source for us to think about health data science solutions. Okay, so we'll just go straight. If you want to dive more, you can check out this paper over here. Here's the link. So in this case, we want to download this data and go about it, right? So there are two ways you can do it. One is just press this download button over here. It will download. The other way, we can do it via Python. So I can say import in Python. So you can click that. So this is the Python code. So I think we will do this because it will help us understand how to use Python in general, okay? So let me just open VS Code and show you how to load this data and then how to think about going through these steps, okay? So let us open VS Code. So this is VS Code or Visual Studio Code. So this is where we handle our projects mostly. Can be Python, can be R, can be anything. So if you have had a chance to look at our previous R tutorial, you realize that we ran that code in RStudio, but for this we will do it in VS Code. So it's a good resource to run your code. It's a good code editor, if I may say. So we want to load that data that we just seen previously using the Python script. But before that, we want to set up some environments that allows us to run our code here in Python. So there's a ton of resources that exist out there on how to install Python, how to get up with the VS Code. So here we are really interested on how to get that health data science data within our working space so that we can work through it. So over here, there's this Explorer panel, which contains the folders that you'll be working with. So I have the datasets over here, but just for practice purposes, let's load them once again from the way we've seen them, right? So I'll just close this over here, open my terminal down here. So one thing I want to do first is I want to create an environment for where I will be working with my code. So let me just deactivate this that is already there. Go to deactivate. Okay. So this line here shows the space or the directory in which I'm working in. So I want to have all my project details within this folder, which I've named Python PV, and it has these folders, subfolders. So here I want to create a virtual environment. So a virtual environment is just like a safe space, a control space that allows us to do or work with our code. So I will do this using what we call UV. So I'll say UV initialize. So we've initialized this project called Python PV within this space. So just if I can mention, you can see some couple of files that have just been populated. I will go into them later, but just to continue, we want to set up the virtual environment. So how we do this using PV is you can say, for example, UV add. We can add any library that we have in mind. So one of the important libraries that you'll be using most of the time when interacting with data is pandas. So when I say UV add pandas, UV automatically creates a virtual environment. So you can see here, it's saying creating virtual environment at .vnv. So you can see here we have a new file called .vnv. So what it has done, it has installed this libraries within this virtual environment. Okay. So next we will activate this virtual environment to get started. So I'll say .vnv. I'll say I'm on Mac, so I'll say source.vnv. bin activate. Okay, so I've activated my virtual environment. So you can see over here we have Python PV. So that means that we have a new environment where we'll be handling all our dependencies for this project over here. This command is different in Windows. So I think I will just leave the Windows command on the screen. Okay, so now that we have this environment set, we need to go back to our code and see how to set up that UCI ML repository working. So let me just change. So here it is. It's saying to install the UCI ML repo package, we do this. So pip install UCI ML repo. So instead of using pip, we have used UV. So I'll just say UV add UCI ML repo. So UV add UCI ML repo. So it has added that. Great. And then we go to the script that allows us to download the data. So this is how it would look like for you. Import the dataset via your VS Code. So I'll just copy that. I will open a new, you can say extract data.py, and then we can just copy paste that over here. So we've just copy pasted the code on how to load up the dataset. So it says from UCI ML repo import this, and then drag reviews. So we are fetching these drag reviews from UCI ML repo, and then we're just loading them here. So let's just do that to see what happens. So we can run this by pressing here. So it loads the dataset. Okay, so yeah, so the dataset is loaded. So let us just see, let us import pandas and see how to read this dataset even much better. So over here I can come, I can import pandas as PD, and then instead of printing the variable information, and we can say drag. So let us see that. Okay, so there is our data. We can see some of the data running. So we will look at better ways for us to visualize the data. So this is an example of how we can visualize the data via the scripts, but this is not the most elegant way of doing it, especially if you're doing it using if you're doing sort of a data science kind of workflow for beginners. So we will do this in what we call notebooks. So over here we have notebooks. So this is what we will use instead of using Python scripts. So notebooks are a good way for you to get started and have that experience in health data science. So for now, I have loaded the datasets for you over here. So we can download the scripts using the .py file. So this is just an example of showing you what the data has. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this 8. So it has 8 columns, and we can't see all the way down, obviously, because this function only brings about some of the few top rows. We'll get into that later. So this is just an example of a script of how to interact with data in Python. So for the subsequent videos, we'll go straight into handling this data in notebooks and talk more about notebooks, what they are, and how to get data now much better visualized within notebooks for you to appreciate how to do data science in Python. Okay.